What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Jedi who also has a razor that also works as a walkie-talkie's favorite nerd. And today we are looking at the Black Series, Qui-Gon Jinn and Imperial Royal Guard. And I don't think there's much more to say. Let's just jump into it. So we'll start with Qui-Gon. He has a couple of accessories which actually are really nice, and that is this lightsaber, which is accurate. Definitely his. The blade is removable. And then the hilt can also plug into the belt, of course. The hilt itself is a black plastic with silver painted on it as well as red. Works really well. And he comes with an alternate hand, which I've been saying they should be doing with these. A nice force posing hand. Let's see, Republic credits will do fine. So that's really nice, and I'm going to switch his hand out right now because that's how I'm going to use him. I just wanted to show that he can hold his lightsaber with both hands, so to speak, if you wanted that. So let's get going. The head sculpt, it's not quite there, is it? And it's not a paint thing, it's a sculpt thing. And, the paint doesn't do it any favors, of course, in terms of shading and so forth, or lack thereof. What are we doing here? Let me back out a little bit. But it almost seems like it's as if someone is doing a really good cosplay of Qui-Gon. That's what it seems like. It's like that guy that you're like, man, you're just born to cosplay as Qui-Gon Jinn. That's this fella here. It's not bad. It's just not great. I don't know why my camera's having such a hard time focusing today. What is going on? So the eyes are painted, the eyeballs, the iris, all that kind of stuff is all painted. There's something wrong with the eyes, though, in terms of sculpt that throws it off. Eyebrows are painted, that looks good. The mustache and beard are all painted, that looks good. That's all sculpted as well. Hair is sculpted. No shading on the hair, which I find interesting. And then it has the little tie-up piece that's painted. Articulation-wise, the head is on a ball hinge, but you don't get a whole lot out of it, mainly because of the hair, but you get down to there, you don't get really anything up, and then you get the swivel, and the swivel starts to kind of throw the sculpt off a little bit, and once again, it's all a hair issue. Now for the torso, it is, I think it's just a swivel. Maybe it's a ball joint. I don't know. If it is, you don't get much out of it. Mainly just the swivel. But there is nice shading on the Jedi robes. Not on the arms, of course, but on the chest and then the kind of lower piece. That's really well done. And then there's another shade added underneath at the bottommost layer. The arms are on disc hinges. They get you up to there. That's quite nice. And then the swivel, so that works. Elbow, 90 degrees, and swivel, no bicep swivel. Wrist swivels, and then hinges. Let's see with this one. In and out. And it's the same for this one, and it's the same for this one. So all that stuff works the same. And then the belt is really well done, all sculpted. The silver's painted, the brown's painted, the black's painted, the gold's painted throughout. No complaints there. Really sharp, well sculpted, well painted. You can't ask for much more than that, especially for a $20 figure. T-jointed ball joints for hips. They get you out to there. Not the best, but certainly not the worst. And then forward to there, around this soft plastic, and back to there. The thigh swivel works fine, double jointed knee and not too shabby looking. And then ankle tilt, maybe ever so slightly up. I wouldn't even give him credit for it. Like it's just that. Down, and then of course the rocker. I do feel like the boots could have used a little bit more TLC. Like definitely like a wash or a dry brushing or something really could have brought out, because there's a lot of sculpted detail in the boots, and it would have been nice to bring some of that out. The pants kind of work with natural lighting to provide some shadows, so that's good. And then this is shaded, so that works fine. And it would have been nice to bring something out in those boots. But outside of that, it's a pretty well done figure outside of the sculpt, and a couple missed opportunities for extra details, just because I can. And next up we have the Imperial Royal Guard, which has a couple accessories. We have this staff, which is like kind of a signature thing that they all seem to come with. It looks good enough. Looks like I think it's a black plastic, and then the silver is actually painted on. Yep, sure is. So that's interesting. Not what I would have expected, but looks good enough. And then we have ooh, a little sneak attack under the robe. I know what that's like. Oh. Well. But he does have the gun. He can hold it in this hand, or you can take this off. There's no detailings to it, just the sculpt work, and you can put it in this holster here. The armor underneath, I think, is like accurate to Crimson Empire, the EU armor design. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what it is. Which is a nice added touch. The soft goods have a good weight to them, which is something that the Black Series does fairly well when they do it, which is why I wish they did it more often, like with Krennic's cape, and with something we're going to be looking at here shortly, next Thursday, this Thursday. But yeah, no paintwork whatsoever. But it is sculpted nice, like all the cloth stuff is all sculpted well, and I mean, I don't know. It's going to be hidden mostly. Oh, we have little black buckles that are painted, so there you go. But let's talk about the figure now. So we have the head, which is, I guess it's on a ball joint underneath this, but you don't get really anything out of it but the swivel, but you really don't need anything out of it but the swivel. And you don't even really need the swivel. I got a little bit of black paint there, which is a bummer. I wish this helmet had a little bit more of a high gloss look. You know, it's something very iconic about these guards, but I guess it'll do. The soft goods also is a bit interesting. So you see how there's this underpiece, and then it's all one piece, and it wraps around back on top of itself, goes over the underpiece, and stitches into like the middle seam, which does work fairly well. But I don't know. It might be accurate. I just don't know. I don't know how accurate that is, but it ends up causing a little bit of an issue here with the way it bunches up. Like you see all those bunches there. So you really have to kind of have one arm, at least when you're posing them on the shelf, come out between the robes just to break it up, just to bunch that up to make it look a little bit more natural. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, but something worth noting. Sometimes I wish they were just like there, you know, a little bit more stoically. Like, what was always cool about the Royal Guards was like the mystery to them, like not really seeing anything. So, I don't know. And then we have this armor here underneath, and it doesn't really get in the way of much. But let's talk about articulation. We have a disc hinge here that gets you up to 90 degrees. We have a bicep swivel that acts as a we have an elbow hinge that acts as a bicep swivel. And then we have a wrist swivel and hinge. Same on the other side. We do have two holding hands. I don't know if there's a, like, I don't think that this will hold this one quite right. So this has to be for the staff. And then we have a ball joint at the torso, swivel, and a little bit of a roundabout. Floating belt piece that's sculpted well enough. T-jointed ball joints for hips. Get you out to there. Thigh swivel. Double jointed knee. Ankle tilt. Once again, I don't think we should give him credit for it. It's the slightest bit up, a good bit down, and the rocker. So it's decent. It's also like it's fairly well toleranced. It's fairly well toleranced to the point where people are usually complain that it's loose, but in my opinion, it's not loose. It's just what it should be. A lot of times they're just they're too tight. But yeah, it's a good little figure. It's just it does have some limitations, and I think it's really just this that ends up getting on my nerves, because you're really limited to how you can kind of make that look natural. You know, it's like you have to pose it a certain way in order for the soft goods to look natural. And I think that the soft goods were the right choice. I just think that maybe it was, maybe it acts as a bit more of a hindrance in the end. Final thoughts wise, the Royal Guard has a lot of issues, but it's one of those things where you can never kind of have enough ultimately. So even if people come along better and do it, this one will still be fine in some way. And I think once you get imposed, you should be okay. I think there's a lot of missed opportunities there. Like, I think a nice glossy red paint would have really set that helmet off. And since they didn't really paint anything else on the figure, I think that is a real big missed opportunity. But ultimately, you can never have enough. And if he's not the best, you just sit him in the back. As for Qui-Gon, here's the thing. That SH Figuarts is going to be very difficult to get. I think that this is kind of good enough. I think at $20 they did a really good job. The only thing I wish they would have done was add some shading to the arm so that it matched the main tunic, and then added some details to the boots to kind of bring those out a bit. The face sculpt isn't the best, but it's, like I said, it's like a really good cosplay. And at $20, it's a pretty decent value for your money. So ultimately, I recommend them both unless you have the SH Figuarts order locked in, or you have the money to pay secondhand prices for them. And the Royal Guard is kind of always going to be okay. Let's just hope something better does come along. And with that being said, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.